The Third Epistle of John, often referred to as 3rd John and written in 3 John, is the antepenultimate book of the New Testament, and attributed to John the Evangelist, traditionally thought to be the author of the Gospel of John and the other 2 epistles of John. The Third Epistle of John is a private letter composed to a man named Gaius, recommending to him a group of Christians led by Demetrius, which had come to preach the gospel in the area where Gaius lived. The purpose of the letter is to encourage and strengthen Gaius, and to warn him against Diotrephes, who refuses to cooperate with the author of the letter. Early church literature contains no mention of the epistle, with the first reference to it appearing in the middle of the 3rd century. This lack of documentation, though likely due to the extreme brevity of the epistle, caused early church writers to doubt its authenticity until the early 5th century, when it was accepted into the canon along with the other 2 epistles of John. The language of 3 John echoes that of the Gospel of John, which is conventionally dated to around AD 90. So the epistle was likely written near the end of the 1st century. Others contest this view, such as the scholar John A. T. Robinson, who dates 3 John to c. AD 60, 65. The location of writing is unknown, but tradition places it in Ephesus. The epistle is found in many of the oldest New Testament manuscripts, and its text is free of major discrepancies or textual variants. Content. There is no doctrine laid out in 3 John, which is strictly a personal letter, but the overall theme is the importance of hospitality, especially when it comes to men who were working to spread the gospel. 3rd John is the shortest book of the Bible by word count. Greeting and introduction. The letter is written to a man named Gaius. The name Gaius occurs 3 other times in the New Testament. First, a Christian Gaius is mentioned in Macedonia as a traveling companion of Paul, along with Aristarchus. Acts chapter 19, 29. 1 chapter later, a Gaius from Derbe is named as one of Paul's 7 traveling companions who waited for him at Troas. Acts chapter 24. Next, a Gaius is mentioned residing in Corinth as being one of only a few people there, the others being Crispus and the household of Stephanas, who were baptized by Paul, who founded the church in that city. Lastly, a Gaius is referred to in a final greeting portion of the epistle to the Romans. Romans chapter 16, 23, as Paul's host and also host of the whole church, in whatever city Paul is writing from at the time, probably Corinth. Verse 2, where the author wishes material prosperity upon Gaius similar to the prosperity of his soul, is a commonly used proof text within prosperity gospel teachings. Opponents of the prosperity gospel consider the verse to be little more than well-wishing. Missionaries. The elder continues the letter by commending Gaius for his loyalty and his hospitality towards a group of traveling brothers. Opposition of Diotrephes. The elder next describes his conflict with Diotrephes, who does not acknowledge the elder's authority and is excommunicating those, like Gaius, who welcome missionaries sent by the elder. Most scholars do not connect the letter the elder mentions with 2 John, since 3 John does not contain any reference to the doctrinal controversy described in 2 John, and argue that the elder is here referring to a previous letter of recommendation. The elder closes this section with an entreaty to Gaius. Beloved, do not imitate evil but imitate good. Whoever does good is from God. Whoever does evil has not seen God. Quote. Final greetings and conclusion. Verse 12 introduces another man named Demetrius, who according to the Apostolic Constitution 7:46, 9 was ordained by John as Bishop of Philadelphia, now Amman, Jordan. The elder, before ending the letter, says that he has many other things to tell to Gaius, and plans to make a journey to see him in the near future. using almost the exact language of 2 John chapter 12. Authorship. 3 John was almost certainly written by the same author who wrote 2 John, and likely 1 John as well. There are many similarities between 2 and 3 John. Both follow the format of other personal letters of the era. In both, the author self-identifies as the presbyter. 3 John is also linguistically similar to both 2 John and other Johannine works. Of 99 different words used, 21 are unimportant words like and, or, the, leaving 78 significant words. 23 of these do not appear in 1 John or the Gospel of John, of which 4 are unique to 3 John. 1 is common to 2 and 3 John, and 2 are found in both 2 and 3 John as well as in other New Testament writings. Approximately 30% of the significant words in 3 John do not appear in 1 John or the Gospel, compared to 20% for 2 John. If 3 John was written by John the Apostle, however, it is strange that Diotrephes would oppose him since the apostles were highly respected in the early church. Date and location of writing. All 3 letters of John were likely written within a few years of each other, and internal evidence indicates that they were written in after the Gospel of John, placing them in the second half of the 1st century. Dodd argues for a date between 96 110 A.D., concluding from the absence of references to persecution in the letters that they were probably written after the harsh reign of the Roman Emperor Domitian, whose persecution of Christians seems to have prompted the writing of the Book of Revelation. Dodd notes, however, that they could have been written in the pre-Domitian era, which is likely if the author was a personal disciple of Jesus. The letters do not indicate the location of authorship, but since the earliest quotations of them, in the writings of Polycarp, Papias, and Irenaeus, come from the province of Asia Minor, it is likely that the epistles were also written in Asia. Manuscripts. 3 John is preserved in many of the old manuscripts of the New Testament, of the Greek Great Uncial Codices, Codices Sinaiticus, Alexandrinus, and Vaticanus contain all 3 Johannine epistles, while Codex Ephraemi contains 3 John chapter 3:15 along with 1 John chapter 1:1-4. Codex Bezae, while missing most of the Catholic epistles, contains 3 John chapter 11:15 in Latin translation, in languages other than Greek. The Vulgate and the Sahidic, Armenian, Philoxenian Syriac, and Ethiopic versions contain all 3 epistles. Canonical history. Main articles. Development of the Christian Biblical Canon, Christian Biblical Canons, and Biblical Canon. There are some doubtful similarities between passages in the Johannine epistles and the writings of Polycarp and Papias. The first reference to 3 John is in the middle of the 3rd century. Eusebius says that Origen knew of both 2 and 3 John. However, Origen is reported as saying, "All do not consider them genuine."